Hello, question 7 from the 2018. Matt, a character in a video game, is collecting the magic coins that are attached to a cliff face. Character starts at the bottom left corner S, must reach a top right corner E. 1 point is scored for each coin that is collected on the way, and the aim is to reach the top right corner with the highest possible score. Each step, the character may move one cell to the right or one cell up, never down or to the left. Let Cij equal 1 if there is a coin at position ij. Cij equals 0 otherwise. Describe how the maximum score Mij is achievable on reaching position ij, where I is greater than or equal to j is greater than or equal to 2, can be determined in terms of the maximum scores Mij minus 1 and Mi minus 1j. Achievable at the positions immediately below and to the left. Oh, right, okay, so we're saying, right, so we want the maximum score when we get to, say, I don't know, here. So we've got to that point. What's the most we could have got there in terms of the positions here and the positions there? Right, well, the only way we can get into that space is through those spots. So, yeah, well, that's going to be pretty straightforward then, isn't it? So we've got then, right, so we have to briefly justify your answer. So the only ways into ij are from I minus 1j and ij minus 1. Therefore, Mij is going to be equal to the maximum that we could have got to in one of those previous spots. So Mi minus 1j or Mij minus 1. So the maximum we could have got to by the time we got to the previous space, plus whether there's a coin in this space or not. So coin ij. Right, that wasn't too bad. Use the okay, let's do, actually I'm just going to put a little IE. It's bothering me with that. Maybe I'll put an IE there, i.e. the maximum possible score up until not Cij, until ij, until okay, one space before ij is what we really mean, plus if there is a plus any coin in ij. Yeah, just a bit more explanation there. So yeah, we're saying whatever we could have got as a maximum up to one space away from ij, and then if there's a coin in ij, we add that on as well. Right, that's a bit better. Part 2, use the result from part 1 to fill in each cell of the diagram above to show the maximum score achievable on reaching the cell. What is the maximum score achievable in the game? Oh my word, right, okay, so we have to have, so we're starting from 2, so well, you can't do anything to get to those, or that, or that, or that, or that, or that, or that. Here we can get to 1 then. There we can get to 2 because we're just doing this thing. We're looking at the ones to the side, to the left and below, and then adding 1 if we've actually got a coin there. So that would be a 2, that would be a 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. So here we'd have 1, there we'd have 2, 2. This would be 1, 2, 2, 2. Oh, this is tedious, isn't it? 2. That would then have to be 1, 2, 2, 3. This would be 2. That would be 3. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Right, where are we going now? This would be 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 4, 4, 5, and 5. Right, yawn, but still. That's done that bit, right? Okay, I don't need that again, having drawn all that out, because I'm going to have to go onto a new sheet for the next part of the question. Given the array of scores, describe a method for tracking backwards from E to S, a path that, if followed in the forward direction, would achieve the maximum score. Draw one such path. Okay, let's go back to, so we just need a method then of working backwards from the end to the start. Right, let's go back to the previous one. So if we're at the end, assume we're just going to follow the high numbers then, aren't we? So if we went from 5 to 5 to 5, what have we got a choice? Well, if we've got a choice, it doesn't really matter, does it? So let's just stay 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, and all the way down there. So yeah, we could just do that as a path. So that could then, so we're following the move to the highest number, well, or pick either direction, really, is what we're saying. It doesn't matter if you pick the other way, and we could still go along the 5s down to that 4 across. Yeah, you've got loads of options. So, okay, let's say that then. Describe a method tracing backwards from E. So move to the highest number in left or down. If equal, then pick either. Then choice doesn't matter. Okay, draw one such path. I've drawn the path. Right, we're already on the last part of the question. With the pattern of coins shown, how many different paths from S to E achieve the maximum score? Describe a method for computing such paths. Right, that's going to be a bit of a pain. Right, I'm going to pause the video just to get the numbers back into this grid, so you don't have to just watch me putting it all in, and then we can work it out from there. Right, there we go. So that's all filled in again. So what we have to do with the patterns of coins shown, how many different paths from S to E achieve the maximum score? Describe a method for computing the number of such paths. Right, let's put that path in that I worked out before. So that was where I was just going highest number, and in that case I was saying if it was a choice, let's just go left. So it has to go like that. That was the route that I put in before. So if we, I suppose if we do one, if we get the envelope, if we do the alternative to that, so say it was in green and I was doing, instead of going left, I was going down when there was a choice. So I'd go from here, you still got to go that way, but then you could go down there. Then you'd have to go there and there, could go down there, has to go there, could go down, down, and then you have to go that way. So that's given us an envelope, and it has to be inside that envelope. So I'd say that's the first part of our method. So 1, find envelope of possible routes. So I think we'll do that first of all. That's got to be useful because we can ignore everything outside of that. So the first part is move to highest number. So this is moving from the end to the start. And we can say, oh, and if there's a choice, and if choice, go left, and then we can have exactly the same for 2, move to highest number, and if choice, go down. So that will give us the envelope. Now what do we have to do with this envelope? We've got this envelope and we have to work out the number of ways to get, I suppose we now go from the start. We're going to have to go from the start, I would have thought. Actually, it doesn't matter which way round we go, do it? We could go forwards or backwards. So we have to look at the number of ways of getting to each cell. Yeah. So we need the number of ways of getting to each cell. I wonder how I'm going to go about doing this. So 2, count number of routes to each cell, because that's going to then allow us to work out. I mean, that seems a bit of a cop out, that last one. Just count the number of routes to each cell, because you're just, I mean, you could just say, yeah, count the number of routes to the end then. Okay, within envelope. I mean, at least it's cut it down a lot, but you could have some really horrible envelopes then. Or is it just going to be every time there's a choice that we are doubling up in some way? That we're just saying, okay, we're getting a ×2 every time there's a choice. But then, yeah, what's actually going on with these things? So like, if we're coming up here, we don't have any. I'll try doing this thing with the numbers. It might number of routes, because it might help give a better way of doing it. That's like the, so we've got one way of getting there, one way of getting there, one way of getting there. So only one way of getting there, and there, and there. So, and here. So on the outside bits, oh, actually, no, I was going to say on the outside, we've only got one way of getting to any of them, but that's not true, because this one up here, I mean, this 2 here, so I'm looking at this cell here. How many ways have we got to go in there? If we have to have 2 coins by the time we got there, well, we can't go via that 1. It has to get there via the 2. There's only one way in. We've only got one way into that cell. It has to come up here. So we've got one way of getting there. But then, so it's not just a case of adding up the numbers that are next to them. And then we come up to this one, but now we could come from either way. So we've got 2 ways of getting into that one. Oh yeah, so we're adding them up if they're the same. Right, okay, so I can see how this is working then. So you count the number of routes. So what we're saying is, so number of routes, let's call that Rij. So we're saying that Rij is equal to R, what are we doing? What do we call these things? M, didn't we? So it's called Ri minus 1j. We need an if in this. Yeah, we definitely need an if. So we're saying that, right, let's get rid of that. Yeah, because we got an if. If they're the same value, then we're adding it on. So we're doing like if R, oh, this is M, isn't it? If M I minus 1j equals Mij, then we want to return Ri minus 1j. If not, we want to return a 0. Oh, but what if there's a coin in there? What if there's a coin in there? So minus Cij. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Let's see if this works. So that's for one of them. Plus if Mij minus 1. I'll explain all this a bit more in a minute. I just need to see if this actually works. Minus Cij. Then we return Rij minus 1. If not, we return a 0. Right, so what I'm saying here is we look at a cell. So let's move to say, well, one of them has got an interest. If it's clinging to the left edge of the square, then we're just getting 1s all the time. But when we get to this square that I was looking at here, so this cell at what's that, 2, 4, 2, 5. So we're saying that R2, 5. So if the one below it, no, the one to the left of it is what I'm doing first. That's the way I've written it out here. That's the one to the left. So if the one to the left of it has got the same M value minus the coin that might have been added on. So there's no coin in here. So we're comparing this 2 and a 1. If a coin had been added, then we'd be comparing the 2 minus that coin and the 1. So if it could have come from that space, because it can't come this way because we're going from a 1 to a 2 and there's no coin in that cell. So this fails because mi minus 1j is 1 does not equal ij minus cij. It doesn't equal it. So it's saying it can't have taken that route. So if it doesn't equal it, we return a 0. And if it did, we'd return that number, which is what we're going to do in the second one. We look at the one below. They've got the same value, even when you take off the possibility of a coin. So you return that 2. That 1, I should say, for the number of routes to get there. Yes, that is exactly what I want. So then when we get to this one up here, this one at 2, 6, then we're saying, right, well, they both got a 2 next to them and there's no coin in that cell. So we are going to return a 1 plus a 1, and there's 2 ways of getting there. So yeah, that is perfect. That is exactly the mechanism for filling in all of this. So we got 1, 1, 2. That's only got one way of getting to it. That way we'll have 2 ways of getting to it. So we'll have 4 ways of getting there. 4 to get there, 4 to get there, which means this would be an 8. And then we'd have 8 there, we'd have 8 there, we'd have 8 there, we'd have 16 there, 24, 24, 24. So there are 24 paths, and this is the procedure for working it out. I mean, you might have come across this structure of doing an if statement in programming. So if you've done any kind of programming looking at ifs, so you do an if, and then you do some kind of statement that returns a condition. So this is going to return a true or false. So in this case, it's saying, right, mi minus 1j, if that is equal to mij minus cij. So that is just returning a true or a false. If it's true, then we return our I minus 1j. That's if it's true. If true. If it's false, we return that. So that's the usual structure for these if functions. So you have a statement at the beginning that you work out if it's true or false, and then you've got the result if it's true and the result if it's false. So that's what I've written out here for counting up that number of routes. So find the envelope, then count up the routes. Yeah, that was a nice substantial end part to the question. It started off pretty straightforwardly, but it did get tricky towards the end, because yeah, that certainly wasn't trivial, and it certainly fits into computational thinking. I can really see why they'd have this as a question 7 in a paper.